Ma always had the saggy butt? I didn't
No,
realize it
no,
was you
no.
came here for this review on Made in Abyss. Let's get into it. Fluffy, what happened inside this season?
So season 2 of Made in Abyss, which is coined the Golden City of something.
The golden city of Scorching Sun.
There we go. That
might be wrong though, but that sounds right.
It sounds right enough. It starts right off from where the movie ended. So definitely, if you haven't seen the third movie, right, you need to watch that before you get into the second season of Made in Abyss. It starts off with Riko and Nanachi and Reg, and they're going down into that little orb thing that they use the whistle on.
It is the ritual area to go into the sixth layer.
They have the whistle that is made out of prushka, which are all...
Try saying that to a regular person.
I know, right? It's like, you what? Prushka, who was Bonju's child, Riko uses the whistle to get to use the elevator thing.
And of course, in true Made in Abyss style, they start off with poop. Like Riko trying to find a way to poop and relieve herself.
It's always about Riko and like it's just like
awkward
eating weird stuff.
Yeah.
And Riko's like, I have to go to the bathroom. And Reg's just like, one or two. And she's just like, both. They finally get to the sixth layer.
After that, the rest of the episode proceeds in a flashback montage. Inside of the flashback montage, you see the first, quote unquote, the first settlers to like adventure to the Golden City. So you're introduced to Riko as a young child who clearly has been an orphan, taken in by this weird, I guess he's a sea master. What do they call salesman? Oh god. Anyway, so and then the first scene is her being like mutilated, abused, physically tortured by this person who is supposed to be like her guardian.
It wouldn't be a Made in Abyss episode if there wasn't
without
some
the
child torture. Yeah, you know.
So basically, Waco's like, I don't have nowhere else to go. I need to go and venture out. And she finds this crew who consists of Beloff and then the Prophet Man. I remember his name, Prophet Man, who was eating bugs. And then the ship and crew sets out to find the abyss because at this point, Waco now has the compass that Riko originally had in season 1. And then the rest of the season is kind of following this like dip between the past and the present and how they're kind of mirroring each other but also not at the same time. So yeah. Essentially that's where Made in Abyss season 2 goes. Jess strictly stays on the sixth layer exploring the Golden City, or quote unquote the Golden City,
the whole time. Nikita watched this before me. She is a huge fan of Made in Abyss, and so she started watching the sub, but I waited for the dub because it's just easier for me to listen to the dub.
Highly recommend the dub because it was a lot of text that was running, and there's also like different languages. So it's not only like Japanese but the language of the Golden City and things like that. So I am glad I waited for the dub. The whole time Nikita's rewatching this with me and I'm watching it for the first time and I'm just like, why is everything so veiny? Why is the wall flesh colored? And I'm like, I never noticed the veins before.
She was like, I just thought it was marble. No, this is like flesh and veins.
But let's just be honest. I felt like this whole season of Made in Abyss was like a giant butt joke.
Not just butts, like buttholes, butts, poop. Jigglies. Just going to the bathroom. We find the Golden City, which is full of hollows. And all of these hollows like have this set rule of value. But all the hollows, like, okay, Midi kind of looks phallic, but like maybe it's just, it's just, it didn't mean to look like that. But all the hollows, they all look very phallic. phallic, and there's like even like this vagina monster thing.
And even Ma
Ma
Han was literally like
is a dildo. Like it's
yeah,
literally
it
a
literally
dildo.
is. Even
And
when
like
it got like the before Han and the after
yeah.
Han were both dildos.
Yeah, it's different types of dildos. Ma was the dildo monster, and who
With a
becomes like more
giant
important.
saggy butt. Gotta love that. Squeak
His
squeak.
butt was like pretty like firm, and then you realize like he's hiding a bunch of stuff inside of him, and that's why he had a nice butt. And then he gets all that stuff taken away from him, and then he has a saggy butt for the
I
rest of the
didn't notice
anime.
that. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
If you hurt something or like destroy something of value that is more than what you have.
But
right?
I thought Ma always had the saggy butt. I didn't
No,
realize it was
no,
perky
no.
before.
I remember I was like, man, that monster got dildo hands and a nice butt. It's just got everything.
There you go.
Ma gets his arm, one of his dildo arms gets ripped off, and it gets given to this like vagina monster, and the vagina monster is like, hell yeah. I remember that scene too, and I was like, what is happening?
Oh god.
There's just a lot of
I didn't notice
genitalia.
that.
Like for some reason, Ma just like punctures a hole through Mania, which is that little rabbit thing that Riko loves. Which I'm like, Ma, what the hell? And he becomes like normal later, so I don't know what was wrong with him before. He's just like and just like destroys Mania, and you're just like, what the hell? And so then Riko's like, I can't put a value on Mania. It's like there's no value. So like the black goo things are like, oh really? Let me go rip all this shit out of Ma.
I love this retelling that you give.
Yeah, this is just one scene in the series, you guys.
Yeah, and
the whole
it's like
season.
still in the beginning stages.
Just
like...
in the beginning, and I was just like, "What is happening? What is going on?" All the imagery is just so like I don't know how to describe it. It just makes me uncomfortable.
And that's been happening like as you progressively were going down inside of the layers. So as they've been progressively going down, the upper layers were very beautiful, but now it's this twisted, like weird, like dark place that is clearly about body parts and all the things that come with it.
Made in Abyss has always had this weird sexual undertone, and part of me in season 1 was like, I don't know if I'm just imagining this, but no, season 2 confirmed it. I was like, no, this is definitely a weird sexual undertone in this anime, which I don't know how to feel about, especially since they're like children. And
yeah,
but
Made in Abyss definitely going for that type of like shock value type of thing.
Oh yeah, especially this season.
Yeah,
there was a lot of
there was no hiding.
Yeah, but anyways, that's like the main plot is them going through the 6th layer, and then they realize that someone's following them, and in their journey to try to figure out who's following them, they find the Golden City and start exploring the Golden City. But from this point on, it's pretty much spoiler territory.
So if you just want to see what our recommendation is for this video, you could skip ahead to this point. All right, on to spoilers.
They eventually split up, right? Because Riko gets sick from whatever she ate, and so she's stuck having diarrhea at the place that they're staying at.
In the toilet that just eats her poo. Like...
that is also like tentacle. There's a lot of tentacle imagery in this too, which is also just this was my face throughout the whole anime. It's like but they are introduced to the city by Majikaja, who is Majikaja Majikaja. He's my favorite character. He's great. Majikaja like introduces them to the city. He tells them about the value system. He eventually, he's like, you can get a place to stay. Reg goes to see the princess. So there's like this ceremony where you're supposed to see the princess, Princess Fopta, and Nanachi ends up going to see Bailoff. And so Reg is seeing the princess, Nanachi goes to see Bailoff, and Riko's having diarrhea.
Keeling over, yeah.
Yeah, in the tentacle toilet. She's like, yeah, I don't really like this toilet, but it does like wipe your butt a lot.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even get that. So much stuff fly over my head. Oh my god.
Nothing flies over my head. Unfortunately. Those 3 kind of stories are what's going on this whole season, and then they converge into what happens in the finale. What you find out is Reg knows the princess, or the princess knows Reg, and so she kind of like takes him and is, let's go off and we can discuss what we had mentioned, like talked about before you left. So you find out that Reg had originally been with the princess before he lost his memory. The princess, she's a hollow, but she's a princess, and she has, people say that she's immortal. So you're like, kind of like, where did she originate from? Why can't she come into the city? They view her from afar, and they just kind of look at her, and it's like, ooh, and she can grant wishes, and that's all you know. And then Nanachi goes to Bailoff, and you end up seeing that Bailoff has a clone of Midi with him.
So Midi comes back. Like, we're
Midi
super excited. But the whole trade-off of this is that Bailoff's like, hey, you gotta sell me yourself in order for me not to eat Midi, because she tastes good. And I was like, Jesus.
Yeah, so Bailoff just has Midi there, and so Nanachi actually does sell herself.
Bailoff puts her into slumber.
Okay, yeah.
And it's so that he could spread his scent all over her.
And give memories to her. I forgot about that. And then Riko eventually like stops having diarrhea, goes off into the city, which Riko is just, I can't stand Riko. I'm so sorry.
The most annoying character in the worst way. Like, not even... No type of common sense is inside of Riko. Riko, you weak. Riko, you like literally recovering from diarrhea. Oh, I know what's a good idea. Let me go looking for some food.
She brings Mania with her. Mania literally had a hole punched through it.
Riko, we didn't know what coming yet.
What is she willing to do, really? Pretty much anything. Why would you bring your pet that was literally about to die? I know she's supposed to be like this like beacon of light, and just like,
it's not a beacon of light when you're just like frustrated with her and just hoping that something happened to her. So we jumping ahead, but I think the whole theme of Made in Abyss is like, Riko clearly have to be very similar to a bad guy. Like, Riko have to be a bad guy in the making.
That is true.
That is a theory I have.
No, that is a good theory.
What would you do for your adventure? I mean, clearly it's a lot of stuff. People eat children. People experiment on kids.
And she says herself that she is like everyone else who has come down. So it's very much foreshadowing to like, maybe she will have a demise. Maybe she won't.
And like, even the characters who are like bad guys, the prophet is clearly like a bad guy. He essentially causes one of the children to wish upon an egg to give birth. But the thing about this giving birth is that all of the children this character gives birth to are dead. Then he takes the dead babies before they're even dead, by the way, because he said freshness counts. So he takes the fresh babies, even while they're still living and kicking, and cuts them up and feeds it to his camp so that they can adventure on. And Riko, seeing and hearing all of this, she's just like, well, I'll decide if you're a bad guy or not. I like Riko.
Yeah, like, there's a screw loose inside of Riko, and I think they subtly, I don't even know if it's subtle, because they mention many, many times like how mad people are and how unethical that the choices they make are. Yeah. And then Riko's like, well,
if you look at it like upside down from the side,
you did what you had to do, and your village is really cool. Adventure. And I love everyone here. So I guess you did the right thing.
So we haven't talked about this, but we find out eventually that the village is Iram Yuri, which was the child who the original adventurers had, this like native child that came with them who was not able to give birth. There was the first wish, and Iram Yuri wished to give birth to children. And then there was the second wish, and she became the house for all of the villages, all of the adventurers to live inside of. So yeah, the flesh-colored walls are actually flesh.
Yeah, what you find out is that Iram Yuri is the Golden City, which you find out isn't even really the Golden City. Yeah. It's just what the prophet basically was like, I made this place and we couldn't find the Golden City, so we're just gonna make this the Golden City, which is literally another person that they're all living inside of. Person. So Iram Yuri had one last child that was made from these 3 golden eggs, and the golden eggs are relics that are on the 6th layer that can grant wishes. That's how Iramui made the first wish, where she could give birth, and that's where the second wish that the prophet made, actually, where Iramui became the village. And then Iramui somehow had 3 relic eggs. She used the 3 eggs to have a final child, a final daughter, and this daughter survived and then fought back. So she wasn't eaten by the villagers and escaped. But it was mentioned that Iramui made also a wish that she could never enter the village because she didn't want her to be attacked and then have to live in this inside of her. Like, like that's just messed up. That's Fopta. And we find out
how
that
you
Fopta
transition from that. How do you? Yeah,
I know, like this is just so when you think about it, it's just so messed up. Everything is so messed up. Basically, Reg went up the abyss to go find his Haku, and he said when he comes back, he will help her destroy the village and let her get in because he has that laser thing on his arm.
This sounding like Reg is Riko Mummy.
Nikita, what? No. Reg is like a robot from the 6th layer.
Yeah, but what if Riko Mummy did wish upon a cradle egg and was like, make it so that I could go back up? And then the abyss is like, the only way you could go up is if you was a robot. And then she was like, yeah, okay. And then abyss is like, well, I have to take your memories if that's the case. I don't know. Anyway.
Okay, you can keep that theory. I'll let you have that theory. I mean, there's been crazier stuff in Made in Abyss. Who am I to say? Who am I to say? This is where it kind of gets really confusing for me.
Just hell? Because this whole season was confusing for me.
The whole season is confusing, but towards the end, it gets very, very confusing. Fopta gets into the village because Reg needs to use his laser. They meet with Bailoff. Reg and Riko finally meet up after Riko goes on her little adventure in the village, almost gets killed, and then Reg goes to visit Fopta and then like also gets basically sexually harassed by Fopta. Comes back, they go to find Nanachi. They see that Nanachi's passed out next to Midi for some reason. They're like, what the hell? And then Bailoff's like, well, if you can get me a piece of the princess, then I will give you back both Midi and Nanachi. But before that, he wanted a piece of Riko. So he was like, Riko, if you give me your legs or maybe your eyes or maybe some vital organs, I will give you back your friends. But she really was considering it. She was like, maybe my eyes, like maybe I can just walk
give
around.
Yeah.
Maybe my legs, like, Reg can carry me. I need my organs. So she's just like, maybe. So then Reg goes off, tries to find the princess again. So she rips off like a piece of her ear and one of her arms. She has like 4 arms. She gives him one of the arms and one of her ears. And she's like, okay, go inside, go save your friends. And then you have to make good on my promise. So he goes in, has the ear and the arm, and that's when the equalizer guy comes and like starts trying to get the arm and the ear from him. And that's when he has to use his laser and he rips a hole into the village. And that's when and he passes out, and Fopta just has the time of her life. She goes in and
listen here, like I don't even care if you wasn't in this village for long. Yeah. You living in here, so let me just kill you real quick.
You're living inside of my mom. You all are. She's originally just mad because of the original settler people who ate her brothers and sisters and then turned her mother into this monstrosity, like village thing. So she is angry at them, but then she's just also angry at just everyone. It's why she was born. That's what she feels like. She's like, I was born. My mother birthed me because she wanted me to get revenge for her. Which is not really what her mom wanted, but that's what she feels like it is.
Yeah.
And she just has a heyday. She's tearing limbs off. She's eating people.
But in her head, that was like her whole purpose of life,
Sad because like Iramui made it so she couldn't come into the village so that she could just go on an adventure of her own and like be her own person. But she was filled with so much hatred and like anger about what happened. She made this like her whole life's purpose to do this.
So now she in there ripping up everybody, eating off their face and stuff like that. The village has been so peaceful to the point that we forget outside was like very vicious. So all these animals come swarming in because a hole is now torn inside of the village. So all the things come in because it smelled like blood. So in the midst of all of this, like ravenous eating faces, the monsters come in and was like, no, 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 girl, let me get some of that action. So now they start eating up the hollows, and Fafta like, I have first dibs on these. So she started yucking the hollows out of them, and the thing started like chicking her up. And then all you see is Beloff and Nanachi just come out of nowhere with a beacon of light. Nanachi was like, go Beloff. And then Beloff was like, come here, come sniff me. And then he just farts inside of her like face or whatever. And then she just, memories. Memories.
One thing we forgot to mention is that Beloff was very remorseful for eating the babies, and he actually didn't want to eat the babies. He was very much
and
forced
he stopped
to
eating
eat.
babies. Like he started eating.
Yeah.
I don't know if this better. He started eating midi so that he don't eat the babies. But like, I guess
Yes.
that's better? Question mark.
And so Beloff actually holds all these memories of Iramui and Waco and the whole village, transferred them to Nanachi while she was sleeping, and then also like transferred them to Fapta
Yeah.
in the end.
So Fapta again sniffing in all these memories. She like, I don't know how I supposed to feel, which is true. You don't know how you're supposed to feel because the mother who she never knew clearly had a good life, living with Beloff, living with
Waco.
Yeah. So Iramui was like, wait, she was kind of happy at this point. Wait, y'all did love her? Y'all provided her with a home? Like all of these things, Iramui did. She didn't know about Iramui. So meanwhile, all the villagers, their face getting eaten off by all of the monsters with the little horse thing that of that one attack, which is the Steph.
Step.
And they step you to death.
There's horse creature that just, I don't know. It's just got a bad attitude. Meanwhile, Fapta's just like crying.
Yeah, she don't know what to do. Like, should she save these things, but she also intend to kill them?
One thing that was confusing for me, you don't really know whose side who is on, because like towards the end the hollows start to feel bad for Fapta even though she's literally massacring them. Like,
yeah, and there's like princess calling us, you could eat us. Hell,
yeah,
they start
and
slicing off themselves and giving it to her, and then she started grabbing them and eating them, and there's like, yeah, this is what we deserve.
Riko was trying, the whole point I thought Riko was trying to do was to save the village, but towards the end it just seemed like Riko was like, let's get out of here. Like that's what Riko felt like to
Riko was like, my adventure will not be stopped by this.
Yeah,
y'all better
like, well,
slow down because I can't broke my arm again.
The whole time she's talking to Reg, like, Reg, we need to save them. Reg, this village means so much to me. Reg, okay, let's go.
Yeah. Reg just like, well, Riko, I can need your help with some of this. You best blow that whistle. And then Riko just...
Yeah. There's so many things that were introduced in this. When Riko blows the whistle, which Prushka whistle was, they fixed it. The village fixed it. You learn that Fapta was the one that kind of was luring them to the village. Fapta took the whistle and like she gave her robot companion the whistle, and then the robot companion went into the village and gave it to somebody to fix it because apparently the whistles need to be fixed or whatever. So then Riko could use the whistle to basically turn Reg white, like his helmet white.
Yeah. Meanwhile, it is not explained why Reg goes black. Like, which we saw in the last episodes. So
in the movie.
I think a lot of people went into it hoping that it would clear up a lot of the questions that the movies and the first season left. Like, why does Reg go black?
Where's Riko's mom?
Yeah. All of these, like, big questions, none of them get answered. Instead, they, like, introduce you, hey, what you really want to learn about is this city. Let me just tell you how the city came about, and then you just watch it die, okay? None of the main questions that you have from season 1 and the third movie get answered. And that's what's so frustrating about this. It just introduced so much questions. Like, how the hell did Mitty get born back into life? I mean, I guess it was because of the village. So souls just don't leave the abyss?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
the abyss was not further explained inside of this movie. I think it was more things added on that we was like, oh, I guess the abyss just does that now.
Nikita explained a lot to me in season 1. If I didn't have Nikita there, I probably would have been really confused, which I still was confused, but then the second season just like made it even more confusing, so much that you just kind of have to explain away that the abyss just does.
Yeah.
And
I don't like that. I really dislike, like, oh, it just happened inside of this universe. That's kind of like Tokyo Revengers. He go back in time. He just do that stuff. It's just... And that's where I feel like I have been very turned off by this season. Like, this season did not live up to what I thought it was going to do. It gave me more questions. I will continue watching, but it frustrated me more than it made me happy. I guess we could go on to ratings now. So
yeah, with that transition.
How did we feel watching this? Animation, I like the imagery inside of Made in Abyss. I know that's not the same for you, Fluffy.
Yeah. I don't enjoy it. I just can't.
Fluffy hates the wide eyes.
I hate the the shark eyes. It almost looks like they made them closer this season because I wasn't as disturbed by their eyes. I don't like the undertones of this anime. I think they're very sexual, and I don't like that because these are children. There could be totally someone that's like, oh, that's all in your head. Like, you're just imagining it. And I could have probably thought that the first season.
I think what you're saying is very valid.
The second season, you can't deny it. There's just so much sexual undertone. The toilet with the tongues, vagina monster. Oh man, it's just so much. The creatures that aren't phallic are pretty cool designs.
Like Magikaja and
Magikaja, Beloff. Even the steppy monster is pretty cool. But
yeah, and it was clearly like kinks inside of this. When you think this monster, his whole like value was having people step on him, and I was like, Made in Abyss.
Was it entertaining? Yes. It was entertaining. It was something. It kept me watching. The plot was fine. It was entertaining.
I find Made in Abyss entertaining, and I think it's because it kind of pulls on the curiosity I have as a scientist, where I just kind of want to know where the hell this thing going. And there are animes that try to do that, and then I, hard pass them. But for this, for some reason, I really want to know, well, where Riko Mummy is and when this thing gonna end.
And I think they purposefully do that. They give you just enough information to keep you interested, but not enough for you to like be like, oh, I totally know what's going on. So it grabs you and keeps you there. I don't know how to rate this. I don't give a rating to this. I don't know if I can give a rating. I didn't enjoy it personally, but it's interesting enough that I think people will enjoy it. I always think of it in like a big aspect of, will somebody enjoy this? It's definitely not for casual anime watchers. I would never recommend this to somebody who's
watch
just
this with your mommy inside there.
Don't watch this with anyone.
No.
Watch this behind closed doors.
Yeah, tuck yourself inside of something.
So you won't be able to explain the scenes, the images that go by. I would recommend it to an avid anime watcher, one who's definitely into world exploring and different creatures.
I agree with your rating. This isn't like a let me introduce you to anime type of anime. No, definitely not. But I do recommend it for people who enjoy kind of like otherworldliness, which is a genre that I tend to like inside of anime. Overall rating, though, this season I would give maybe 7. It wasn't a good season because a lot more questions come up and a lot more things are unanswered. And that always makes for a bad storytelling in my opinion. So if you like these type of videos, definitely give us a like button. That lets us know and helps us a lot inside of the algorithm. Maybe we'll do a follow-up if there's a season 3. Be one of those YouTubers. If this video gets to 10 likes, because that's the threshold we're looking. That one person who downvotes us, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you later.